Now let's proceed with the media education case presentations. We invited speakers from various countries to share their practical media education cases from their respective countries and discuss effective educational methods. The presentations will be in the order of Korea, Australia, Ghana, Greece, Taiwan, and the United States, and it will follow the Pechakucha format. So it involves using 20 slides focused on images, with each slide being presented for 20 seconds. Each speaker will have 6 minutes and 40 seconds in total to deliver concise yet essential content. The presentation on Korea's media education will be given by Mr. Kang Yong-cheol from Seoul Kyunghee Middle School. Following this, Mr. Kang will lead the roundtable discussion as the moderator. Now, I'd like to tell you two things. Once again, if you need simultaneous interpretation, tune in to Channel 1 for Korean. And I'm going to introduce our moderator. He is a teacher of Kyunghee Girls Middle School, and he is an instructor of the Korea Education Broadcasting, teaching Korean language, and more than 1 million cumulative numbers of students to date have listened to his instructor in EBS. He's been a professor at various universities, and he's also served instructor for the Korea Press Foundation and the Overseas Korean Foundation, and so on. And he's also written a book called The Power to Connect the World, Media Literacy, and he's going to share his insight on this very topic today during his presentation at the round table. Please listen, and this will definitely be a constructive time for you. Then without further ado, let's introduce Mr. Kang Yong-cheol. Let's invite him up to the stage with a big hand. Hello, everyone. My name is Kang Yong-cheol. It's a great pleasure to meet you all. So we'll be following a very special format. So once again, the PowerPoint slides will be shown for only 20 seconds each, so please pay attention. You're not angry, by the way, right? Because I'm trying to be fun here, but you're going to react to my trying to lighten up the mood, right? Okay, I'm an instructor at EBS, and around like 1.06 million students are listening to my instruction, but amazingly enough, no one here knows me, who I am. But anyway, I've been studying media literacy of our students, so I'm just going to share what I've learned over the past years, and let me begin. All right, looks like everyone is here. Can you wave to our Korean audiences? Yeah, although maybe no one can see. But anyway, yeah, please wave to the speakers as well, audiences. Yeah. Anyway, let's get connected by heart, although we can't see each other. Once again, my name is Kang Yong-cheol from the Kyunghee Girls Middle School. Just think of me as not a case that represents Korea, but just representing a single education case. Now, before I became a teacher, I was actually a general at a special troop. So you need to fact check this. I'm going to tell you that it's facts. But I became a teacher overnight, but I was able to adapt to the school environment without any problem because while I was serving as a soldier, I clipped newspapers every day. So in other words, newspaper was my source of knowledge, a channel to connect me with the world. And in growing to become a teacher and growing as a soldier, newspaper really played a big role. Media was a big focus for me. As soon as I came to school, I tried a lot of education. You probably heard about newspaper in education, multimedia in education, and ICT. So I incorporated these digital media means to my education when teaching students. And I tried to instill significance and fun to the students. And through this process, my skills as a teacher was able to grow. And of course, AI and AI digital textbook is something that is of your interest, and I'm doing related research. Here in Korea, AI digital textbook will be incorporated for the first time next year. And therefore, school teachers in Korea are focusing a lot of attention on these AI digital textbooks with a lot of concerns on the field as well. Now, look at these numbers. These are the learning objectives, you could say, that Korean students have to learn. So among around 1,300, the education that they have to, or lesson achievements that they have to attain, 163 of them are related to media literacy, which shows how much of an emphasis the Korean government is placing on media literacy. Now, what is the key to success? First is about providing the hardware or the right educational environment. Here in Korea, we are aiming to provide one device per student. It's happening at the moment, but as you can see, you see that students actually have one device per person. We have the necessary infrastructure, which made the classes to be conducted seamlessly. And also, the teachers have created a community where they can share their concerns and share their knowledge and ideas. This is outside of school. They meet outside of the schools to gather together to share their concerns, and therefore media literacy education in Korea was able to advance thanks to their efforts. And what's also important is that we have professional media instructors in Korea who are certified, and so they are supporting the media education in communities and in schools, and they play a very critical role in making sure that media literacy is spread across the country. So I wonder if there are any certified media instructors here today. But anyway, we also have media textbooks, and we have media specialized organizations at the government level making related efforts. Now we have the Korea Press Foundation that organized the event like this. They're helping us a lot. By the way, I don't see any people from media, the Press Foundation smiling. I just mentioned your name. But anyway, they provide related information for us teachers as well. Now, quality of education. When it comes to enhancing the quality of education, enhancing teacher skills is very important. In the era of AI, teachers have to struggle with how to effectively convey media literacy to the students. Now you see that look at this. Students are overly dependent on their smart devices. I would like to ask you this. Now, Korean students are overly dependent on media, right? And I'm sure you're concerned about that. And so among media literacy, media control, controlling their ability to see the media is also very important. So we need to provide, we are creating conditional training and so on to help them with media control. And media access is also very important. Now, during class, media is being dealt with broadly. And at a national level, we are holding news reading contests where we allow students to access great and effective media content. And I'm sure you love the concept of fact-checking, right? Media criticism, fact-checking, those abilities are very important. This is an example of a case where students actually checked whether or not something is a fact. Like, for example, are these comfy socks really helpful for your having a good sleep, for example? These are some of the cases that students verified. And also, we need to engage in media criticism. So here is also an example of the dark side of the social media, where you have to discuss about media aiming to develop a balanced view of the media. And also you can see that now these days we have something called a convergence class. So in art class, you would create props and background. And in PE class, you would do some sort of a theater where you would converge these like media classes with other ordinary subjects. By the way, this image was created by ChatGPT, but it's not actual students, but we do see examples like this where students are engaged. And also, as part of the media production efforts, we have school reporters that are spreading news in school campus, and we also have these other campaigns that are created in the short form content. Now, students need to gain a hands-on experience of creating media, because that only then they will be able to understand the true essence of media. And we also have international exchange classes where students will be able to exchange ideas with students overseas. Peace, human rights, and some of these are like the topics that we involve when we conduct international exchange classes when it comes to media production in our schools. And media ethics is also very important in relation to especially portrait rights and copyrights. Here in Korea, portrait rights and copyright education is mandatory. If you look at the right, look at that. My horrible picture is actually circulating online without my consent. Is that scary? Portrait rights is so important. The media literacy education here in Korea make sure that Korean citizens and students have become owners of media instead of slaves of media. We want our students to become democratic citizens of the media world, and I want all of you to think with me for us to all become genuine media citizens of the future. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'm gonna be seated because even I'm standing up, I'm not that much taller. Anyways, so not many of you know Kucha method is very short and intense, and this may sound a little new to you, right? So I hope that, I wonder why nobody's answering. But anyways, so we're gonna hear from other countries' cases. So let me go ahead and introduce them. I will say that there was a pre-rehearsal already, but because of the internet connections, some may have some glitches technically, in which case we're going to replace with the videos that is pre-recorded. I hope that's okay. So let's start with one country by another. So next one is Australia, and we have Miss Amanda Levino from Southern Cross University. So the topic today is media literacy in Australian primary school classrooms. Please welcome Dr. Amanda Levino.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today about media literacy in Australian primary schools and provide some context there. So today I'm going to briefly introduce 3 instances where media literacy education has been implemented with children of primary school ages between 6 and 10 years of age, so quite young really. I'm just not sure if the slides have started. Thank you. So in Australia, we acknowledge the traditional owners or the Indigenous people of the land where we live and work. So today I acknowledge the Turrbal and Yuggera people as the traditional custodians of the land where I'm talking today, and I pay my respect to elders past and present of these lands. For the past decade, media literacy education has been part of the media arts strand of the Australian curriculum, the arts. This means all students in primary school and in early high school are meant to receive teaching and learning in media arts, and by extension, media literacy. It's one of 5 art subject areas in Australia. Media arts requires students to make and respond to media artworks. In other words, students should produce and analyse the media. The curriculum is open enough to allow teachers to make decisions about what media forms they want to explore and technologies to use. So if a Year 6 teacher wants to explore video game making, but in another school a teacher wants to explore news media, they can. The curriculum is underpinned by the key concepts of media literacy. We take a conceptual approach so that students will be able to take what they've learned from one piece of media and apply this to media of the past, present, and any new and emerging forms of media. And this comes out of the UK tradition. So in Australia, we have 6 key concepts that you can see here. They are technologies, representations, institutions, audiences, languages, and relationships. All concepts should be covered over the course of schooling. However, research has shown that teachers in primary school years often favour representation, audiences, and languages. So over the next couple of slides, I'm going to provide some examples of the types of work teachers are undertaking in media literacy in primary schools and in informal learning settings. These are across different grade level and contexts, and they're only a snapshot of practice. So they're very, very brief, and I can go into more detail if you'd like to make contact. The first example is a Year 1 classroom. The students in this classroom were about 6 years of age. The classroom teacher was new to teaching media art, and she was relying on a resource that was developed by an education department to help her teach. So it was really using the lesson plans provided by the department. In this unit, the students were required to make a soundscape. They used Foley sounds that they created themselves, so they might have clapped or clicked their fingers or poured water, and other sounds to create 30 seconds of sound to match an image, and in this case, a waterfall. The second example is from a Year 2 classroom with 7 and 8-year-olds. As a researcher, I led workshops with assistance from the classroom teacher. The purpose of these workshops was to explore children's everyday media experiences and to draw on what they already knew about the media from home and other areas of their lives. So as part of this example, we planned, filmed, and edited short movies. We learned how to make a basic computer game in Octo Studio, and we created an ebook over the course of the 6 sessions. So this is just an example of one of the ebook pages where we were talking about really specific things like a long shot, medium shot, close up, as students were reflecting on their learning here. The third example comes from a pilot project undertaken with colleagues at the Australian Research Council Centre of Excellence for the Digital Child. We ran a workshop with the intention of exploring children's understandings of algorithms. So the children were aged 6 to 9 years of age. We used hands-on activities and asked children to curate images that they had taken with those instant cameras into different galleries according to different prompts. So for instance, things I want for Christmas or technology for young children. Students used the instant cameras to take photos and arrange them in several different ways according to the prompt to get them to think about how algorithms might act in social ways. So here are some examples of some of the ways that children curated these images, and they were allowed to curate them in whatever way and whatever format they wanted. So you can see one person just had 3 images and others had 5, and they had reasonings for that. So these examples show that children from a young age are very capable of developing understandings of media literacy, and they can build upon their own experience of the media in both formal and informal learning settings. And you might have noticed that across these projects, there were different types of media and different types of technologies explored. The conceptual approach to learning means we can examine a range of media and relate this to what children already know and do. As adults, it's really important for us to ask critical questions with students and encourage them to reflect on their own media use. So if we consider the impact of AI and algorithms specifically, we might be left asking, how can media literacy help? Or even asking if media literacy can support learning about rapidly developing technologies. While the technical aspects may be a little bit complex for children and even some adults like me sometimes to understand, we can focus on the social uses of technologies and how they impact our lives. And I think media literacy has a role to play there. So taking the conceptual approach to media literacy education and encouraging children to ask critical questions about the media is important. It's also important to consider how both creating and analysing the media together offer opportunities to draw on students' knowledge of the media. So this is just one artifact that I developed with the support of children and teachers to start to help teachers talking about media with really young children. So these are called the Children's Media Prompt Cards, and they've come from data collected with children over the projects I've just talked about. So you can see here that there's an educator card, so educators can learn about institutions, and then we have children's cards to start the prompts. And these cards can be used in classrooms or other settings across primary school contexts, and they're available to download soon. So get in contact if you're interested. And there's just some links to some further reading as well around primary school and media literacy education in the Australian context. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm really looking forward to the other presentations today.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Once again, that was a very intense presentation in the format of Pecha Kucha. You talked about the systematic media education that is being conducted in Australian schools. I wish we could receive our education like that. Don't you wish so? And thank you very much. Now, and Ms. Levino also talked about how this rapidly developing technology is actually influencing the media literacy education for young children. Now, let's move on to the next presenter. By the way, I think I need to pronounce this name very correctly, but Osman Abubakari Sadiq. He's from Ghana, and he's a fellow at Media Foundation for West Africa. His presentation is titled Bridging the Knowledge Gap Through Media Education. Please welcome him with a big hand.
Thank you. Good morning from Ghana. My name is Osman Abubakari Sadiq. I'm a fellow at the Media Foundation for West Africa. My presentation is basically bridging the knowledge gap through media education in Ghana, where I'll be looking at the pluralistic nature of the media vis-a-vis the educational aspect as well as media literacy. So Ghana has over 150 radio stations and over 50 television channel stations, according to the National Communications Authority. And really, all of these media organizations share information that the ordinary Ghanaian or ordinary citizen do not understand or do not know how to verify. And so media literacy becomes very important because of the thriving nature of the media, including the newspaper or newspaper publication outlet. And so media education has become very, very important because of misinformation, disinformation, and the media literacy gap. And so the government established the Ghana Institute of Journalism, one of the institutes to train and nurture communication professionals or media practitioners, which quite recently they introduced media literacy as one of the courses that you would have to offer when you are passing through this institute. And so the institute provide hands-on training and hands-on experience for students to ensure that they put into practice their media literacy skills by sharing or producing radio programs and radio shows to ensure that their skills are effectively utilized in a polarized media landscape. Aside that, we also do the outreach or local level community engagement on media and information literacy, where we engage market women, roadside people on the need for them to be media and information literate. Because media literacy has not really fully been added to the educational curriculum of the Ghanaian educational system, we organize our own seminars and workshops to ensure that media reaches the less privileged and people without much educational background. And so these are some of the workshops that we really do in the local communities or local context to ensure that people understand media literacy. Aside that, we also engage local senior high schools and junior high schools in media literacy education, where we teach them source verification, we teach them the tenets of media and information literacy, as well as critical thinking. And so it ensures that the overall learning of the students becomes wholesome because of the lack of media literacy in the educational curriculum. We are complementing these efforts to ensure that the changes brought about by social media and other aspects of media communication do not really hinder the learning process of these children. And so we foster critical thinking amongst them. We ensure that they become critical thinkers at the end of the day to be able to sort of be critical thinking when it comes to the media, right? Because the journalists themselves, sometimes we give them training on fact checking, verification, and cross-referencing of facts before they publish it, but they can still get it wrong. And so it has become very critical and necessary for us to engage in media literacy trainings across various sectors, culturally and contextually. Because social media, for instance, has made it very easy for people to access information at a very basic level. My mother uses TikTok, and when you ask her how does she verify the information, she really cannot tell. So she just consumes the information on their platforms. So it has become really important that because of social media, we engage people to understand these things. And at the Media Foundation for West Africa, where I am a fellow, that has been one of our core mandates to ensure that we train the journalists themselves, the people at the forefront of sharing information themselves on media literacy, fact-checking, and the basic tenets of open source intelligence for them to ensure that they share critical, verified, and accurate information to the citizenry who they serve. And so media literacy in the context of in the Ghanaian context has not really been much of something that has been done at the government level. It is privately initiated by various organizations and individuals like myself and other colleagues in the media fraternity who we feel that the media landscape is saturated. And so we have to devise a way of making sure that people understand the core tenets or the rules or function of the media. Now, with the generation of a lot of information online, deepfakes, with just a prompt, you're able to generate a lot of information because of artificial intelligence. It has even compounded the issue over here in our part of the world where people are unable to verify whether the information they are receiving from these AI chatbots are really working. And so we have been initiating fact-checking for rural media development, where we ensure that the capacity of the media is developed, the capacity of citizens are developed towards using the media and AI in general, because artificial intelligence has come to complement our work. And this is one of the workshops where we engage people who are differently abled. They have hearing impairment, and so we use sign language to teach them media and information literacy. One of the interesting projects that I've ever embarked on to teach people who are hearing impaired on media literacy is really it's a wonderful initiative. And at the Ghana Institute of Journalism, which is now the University of Media Arts and Communication, I have championed, and we had the MIL Club. This is a photo of us where we had a training at the United States Embassy in Accra for an 8-month training on media and information literacy. This club is really helping to nurture the students into what we call media literate or media savvy. And so basically, these are some of the issues that in Ghana here we have been doing in our little efforts to ensure that government initiates media and information literacy in the educational curriculum. Thank you. I look forward to the other session of the program.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Once again, that was Mr. Osman Abubakari Sadiq from Ghana. Thank you so much for telling us about your efforts about critical thinking and also providing media literacy to the vulnerables. And you talked about your mother's case as well. Now, Mr. Sadiq, who used to be the former program support staff for communication and information sector at the Ghana Commission for UNESCO.
Moving on to our next presentation, this will be from Greece. What comes to your mind when we say Greece? Yes, that's right. So that's from Greece. We have Irene Andriopoulou. So I'm going to read where she's from. So she's a media literacy and culture expert, advisor to CEO, Hellenic Film and the Audiovisual Center, Creative Greece. So let's welcome Irene on with a big round of applause.
Good afternoon. It is with great honor and pleasure to be invited to 2024 Korean Media Education Conference to present the state of play of Greece on media literacy, as well as deploy new avenues with artificial intelligence. So I have been working on the field of media literacy for 20 years now, and I'm delighted to further explore MIL links with AI. My presence today here coincides with exactly 2 years that I had visited Seoul, again invited by Korean Press Foundation on the National Journalism Week. But my first encounter started in 2019 UNESCO Global MIL Week in Gothenburg, where I co-presented with South Korea colleague. So in an overview, I will present the state of play of media literacy in Greece through the new public actor, Hellenic Film and Audiovisual Center Creative Greece, as well as display an indicative case study on an AI assignment we did in the classroom as learning discipline in tandem with risk and challenges. And so coming from a film organization, I like to play with films. So what is the main dilemma about AI? Is it about fear and loathing, according to Terry Gilliam film, or about sense and sensibility, a more modest approach by Jane Austen? According to the European Commission, AI is listed among the critical technologies that we need to embrace the challenges and reflect upon them. And this is my MIL scheme I constructed as part of my research, where we can see that MIL is a foundational human right and a standout life skill that leads to media autonomous citizens in knowledge societies. And it also can have an influential positive impact on generative AI. This is a UNESCO ecology with regards to media literacy and the more advanced one, where you can see that AI is listed there, as well as data literacy and computer literacy. So the main question is, do we want school media literacy through or with the media? This is the main dichotomy, where media needs to be integrated in schools as an autonomous subject of its own per se, or cross-curricularly as guiding tool supporting other subjects. These clouds you see here, they indicate the fluidity and infinity that media literacy is about. And on the quest for MIL policies also in Greece, we can find 3 levels: the institutional level, the civic educational level, and the personal, individual level, our personal responsibility with regards to developing MIL skills. And according to a recent research I did last year, these are the main policy development fields that we can find media literacy globally engaged. In terms of policies. So we found it in pedagogy, in communication policies, in audiovisual, digital skills and framework, also as part of civic education and citizen protection. And now running back to Greece to introduce you the new Creative Hub GR, the new agency of Creative Greece, where we approach media literacy as an interdisciplinary context following the global mobility in the field. So it is our hub for innovation and in technology, and we deal with media literacy, visual culture, and creative education. We also take part to the Global MIL Week of UNESCO. We organize school contests, as someone also suggested, film education products, animation, gaming, produce resources, offer teacher training, student workshops, and also work on the new blueprint on media and creative literacy in education. This is some things about AI that was voted as Word of the Year in 2023 by the dictionaries, also by Merriam-Webster. It was authentic. So can we find the correlation between these two? Is AI an intruder or a facilitator in the classroom? You can find here the main policy areas of AI. And it is part of future literacy, AI, that helps people understand why and how we can use the future tools and interact with our digital saturated societies. And this is a very good resource to use it in the classroom. It was produced by the European Commission. It approaches generative AI in school as educational discipline. It is free to download, and it offers a new methodology on the ethical guidelines and a new methodology on how to start talking about AI in teaching and learning. Alongside this resource, it is very important to mention that the new United Nations Pact for the Future, this September 2024, all the member states committed by 2030 to design and roll out digital media and information literacy curriculum in the classroom. So this is a very important development for the mobility in the field. And this is just a snapshot of our joint AI assignment we did among 3 countries in 2 continents. And in Greece, we applied this AI assignment in primary and secondary school teachers in online settings. We asked them to find an AI picture or find an AI summary of a famous activist. Most of them chose Malala Yousafzai or Maria Teresa. And we compared the results. So we had some very important observations, like the algorithm was mainly biased, and some results were inaccurate. We had no references. And with regards to the generative AI images generated for the classroom in 2050, you see this is a pattern, like, the perfect classroom with white students, a great classroom setting. So there was kind of a bias there as well. I would like to end saying that we want, we have AI in our immersive reality today. This is not a magic one. We need human-centered AI tools, but also that release our imagination and challenges. That's why I put Salvador Dali there, because very early on he predicted that the eye has to see to believe it, but now the eye has to be trained to question and search for the truth. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Yes, so AI literacy, AI guide, and media literacy policies were mentioned. And at the last one page, you saw her business card. And it was through her media literacy skills, the citizen turned from a passive recipient to active consumer. So thank you once again for your presentation. Let's move on to the next one.
It will be by Mr. Rishu Shao from Taiwan. He's a teacher at the affiliated senior high school of National Taiwan Normal University. His presentation title is From Innovation to Integration, Our Journey in Media Literacy Education. Please welcome him with a big hand.
Welcome to our journey in media literacy education. I'm Xiao Yushou, a math teacher at the affiliate senior high school of National Taiwan Normal University. As the community leader of our media literacy-based school, I'm excited to share how we build this program, the challenge we face, and our vision for the future. In today's media landscapes, bias, echo chambers, scams, and misinformation are everywhere. Gen Z students are constantly exposed to social media content. Media literacy helps them question and analyze information critically. And to design our media literacy curriculum, we refer to UNESCO's guidelines, Taiwan's Ministry of Education curriculum, and also our school's framework. A common thread among this is the emphasis on critical thinking, which forms the foundation of media literacy. In 2019, as a new media literacy-based school, we built expertise with support from TFC and professors from NCCU and NTNU. We attended workshops, read extensively, and held regular meetings to shape our curriculum. These efforts led a strong foundation for our program. In our first year, we experimented with a prototype curriculum. Teachers from various disciplines led weekly sessions on media literacy basics, historical misinformation, and also something about COVID. However, lesson was still subject-centered, revealing areas for improvement. In 2020, we refined the curriculum for smoother continuity, with 2 teachers alternating weekly. Each took charge of 1 week, allowing us to break away from a strictly subject-based approach. We began incorporating diverse digital tools and action plans. This year, we help students recognize their echo chambers and bias. They use various tools to debunk misinformation through hands-on activities, making the course more engaging and deepening their understanding of the media literacy. And then after that, move to the 2021, we expand to a cross-school course with 30 students from 4 different schools. Over 12 weeks, students learn to identify filter bubbles, debunk misinformation, and also recognize ideological bias. Then they apply this knowledge through action plans to influence others. To help students create effective action plans, we introduce tools like ORID and OGSM for structured planning. We also talk about digital storytelling through online platforms, enabling them to use media to reach wider audiences. And then after that, to 2022, we focus on integrating media literacy into various subjects. Activities like board games and field trips enrich learning, offering our students engaging ways to enhance their media literacy skills. And then after that, till now, the year of 2023 and 24, we formalized media literacy as an elective course with credit. Previously, it was offered during flexible learning time with only certificates awarded. Now, this half-year course allows teachers to guide students more progressively. During the past few years, we've gathered many great student projects. One of it is an Instagram campaign to debunk scams and misinformation. Students identify false information, share screenshots, and provide fact-checking tips. Even after the course, this account continues to update and reach more and more people. Besides, in our class, we will use interactive platforms like Jamboard and Padlet. These tools allow students to actively share their ideas and engage in discussions. They also help teachers quickly access students' learning progress. As a math teacher, let's do a quick calculation. While our curriculum has shown a great success during the past few years, our school has nearly 3,000 students, but only 30 students can take this elective course at a time. That means we are just reaching 1% of our students. So we need to do some adjustments. To expand our reach, we aim to integrate media literacy into a school-based required curriculum that every student in our school should take. This course will focus on skill development and be co-taught by 2 teachers. On the right-hand side of the photo are some of the teachers who taught this curriculum. And in this course, we will use the STW routine, See, Think, Wonder as a learning scaffold. This approach guides students to observe, analyze, and reason critically. Students can also apply this method when they process information. Also, in this course, we introduced the CER model, encourage students to form claims, support them with evidence, and provide reasoning. This approach integrates scientific, social, and logical reasoning principles, helping students create well-supported conclusions in their analysis. So we embedded media literacy into our school-based curriculum by linking current issue and using the STW routine and CER model. Students learn to analyze and debunk misinformation as demonstrated in the outcomes. On the left-hand side is the CER model, and on the right-hand side is the Padlet in our class. Beyond the classroom, we aim for long-term impact through student and teacher-led club activities. Students create guides and manage social media to raise awareness and debunk misinformation. On the left are students' projects, and on the right, we share our results at inter-school workshops with other teachers. That's all about today. Thanks for your attention. This photo shows our dedicated teacher community. Thanks to their efforts and your support, media literacy will keep going. And I'm Xiao Yushou from Taiwan. That's all about today. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Xiao. You talked about the case of media literacy in Taiwan based on your actual cases, and I was very impressed with the disinformation debunking Instagram accounts. And do you remember what subject he teaches? Math, right? He said he's a math teacher. And what was also impressive was that they actually started out with a very small program, but now it's become a part of the school-based curriculum. That was very impressive.
The last presenter is from the US, and that is Jody Knopfsinger Huang on creating media narratives. She's from Los Altos High School. So let's welcome her with a big round of applause.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I am a second career teacher. I started out as a professional in media, working in cable news, and I lived in China, and I was an editor of a magazine. So I am eager to share that passion for media with my students. And so that's kind of how I've started out. When I got to the classroom, I was surprised at how slow it's been to adapt, particularly in English, which I was teaching. And so I use Renee Hobbs, a media literacy scholar, as kind of my influence, that to create is to be seen. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on today. But in media literacy, we kind of get lost in all, like, how are we defining it? What are all these terms? So I'm just going to go back to the National Media Literacy Association of Media Literacy Education in the US, and they've simplified it to the ability to access, analyze, evaluate, create, and act using all forms of communication. So access is where we start out. I know some others have mentioned this already, but most of our students have access. They have phones. I teach high school, and we are a one-to-one school, so they have devices. That is not always the case at home, but generally they are, access is not the biggest issue. Next, we have analyze. We've all talked about this already today, but for this, I think some of the key questions that anything that they're consuming, they're asking who made the message and for whom, and who is included or excluded, who profits from the message, what techniques are used and why, and how do these techniques communicate the message. Then once they've kind of done this, it could be as simple as pulling up the last thing they've looked at on their phone, an Instagram post or TikTok, they evaluate. I use a resource from KQAD. It's our public television station here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And it's share or beware. So it kind of looks at those things. Then we move on to create, which I'm so impressed with what everyone is doing around the world with this. I feel like we've been slow to adapt. So I feel like this is not simply making media, but they're subverting any of the media narratives that they've heard and what they're analyzing to create their own. So for me, this has been podcasting. My classes, the first year I started this, my classes were online, and I had students read an article about learning loss and how students, they were just being told, oh, they're so far behind that, so it was kind of, how about they counter that? So they read it and then they made a podcast to talk about all the ways that they had learned throughout the pandemic. It was stories of resilience and hope, and even a student learning to be more independent despite being at home by taking bike rides. But they were just really heartwarming and full of hope. So the process started with simply just responding to an article, reading some kind of example, thinking about it, analyzing it. Then we would listen to podcast examples, like how was it constructed? What kinds of sounds did they use? They'd move on to writing their own script, recording it, and giving each other feedback. As far as, so those are the steps. But since then, I've continued to use it. I just wanted to share a few other projects. On the 20th anniversary of 9/11, I had my students interview their parents or an adult in their lives about the experience, where they were. I was surprised. I didn't realize how many students I had from other places, like their parents weren't in the US. So it was kind of an interesting perspective to see how it was perceived. They also write narratives just about their core values or identity. So it's just something that they're able to share more about themselves. So teachers shouldn't be afraid to try a new technology. That's one of the things I've come up against at my school. It's kind of intimidating, especially for older teachers. But podcasts can be as simple as recording on a phone, which nearly all of my students have, where they can also do it on a device. So you can get a professional setup with a microphone. There are also simple editing platforms. Soundtrap is something that I use. You can sometimes get a free account through different places, or Adobe now has Adobe Podcast. They just saw it was like in beta testing, but it's super easy. It doesn't require a lot of effort from teachers to learn it. Then once we did all of the editing and they would add sounds, we would do a listening party. And so this was really, they'd be in groups of 5, listening to each other's podcasts, giving each other feedback. We just use Google Slides generally, but it was a way for everyone to be heard and to share. And so also, this is the rubric that I would use. I also looked at like content, focus, evidence, storytelling, presentation, preparation, music, sound effects, and production. So it could be a simple rubric. You can kind of put whatever you want, but I tried to make it more just about the experience of producing something and creating their own narrative. Finally, ACT is the last part of that media literacy definition. So they're sharing it with a wider audience, engaging civically from the analysis and evaluation of media messages. So they're putting their voice into the world and sharing their own narrative. And I've seen some of you are kind of doing things where you are educating others about media literacy, like the Instagram. I would love to try that. But for us, it was just the podcast that we created within our classroom. But what was really interesting is that my next slide is going to be about KQED, which I just wanted to put this website up there. They have so many resources. They have a youth media showcase. So my students can submit to this. Anyone, it's not a contest. It has a call for change, show what you know, or first person narrative. So they have a teacher toolkit, all the steps. So there are great organizations like this in the US. KQED is one of them, the News Literacy Project. Their project Look Sharp. If you'd like to know more about other resources, I've done many of the certifications. Feel free to contact me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for sharing your examples of the US about learning from the creation and all that media creative. You know about this prosumer, so about approaching, evaluating, acting at the end as well, and very impressive. And yes, the website that you shared, yes, at the very end, it was kqed.org. So yes, I think we can check that out and find out more about it. So we heard from 6 presenters from each country. So it was a Pecha Kucha method, as you saw. It's a very short but impactful and intense way to intrigue and to excite the audience. It's just like short forms in a way. And another thing is that if you want to hear more about certain aspects, you can delve into that later. So we have some time left, and we can use this time to have really just free-flowing discussions amongst the panelists. You can ask each other questions or ask for more clarification or further explanations. So we have the speakers. Can you wave your hands to the camera, please? Yes, I can. Yes, thank you for that. Now, let me pose a question. So I jot down notes listening to the presentation. So citizen media education or parents education or education on media for each life cycle. Do you have any of those education in any of the countries represented here? So anyone, if you like to share the cases of that, please do. I hope that it was translated, right? So anybody, please? Please raise your hand. We can give you the floor. So again, any media education for parents or for citizens or life cycle specific education for media. Anyone, please? Okay, I can see many hands up. That's impressive, and I'm very happy. All right, maybe the first hand was raised by from Ghana.
Once again, Mr. Osman Abubakari Sadiq, you may speak first, and then we'll go straight into the US afterwards.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity once again. Let me use this opportunity to correct the pronunciation of the name. It's Osman Abubakari Sadiq. Abubakari Sadiq. Thank you. With media education for parents or lifestyle in Ghana, we often look at the market women. So for instance, people who sell at the market, right? We understand that while they sell, they have a radio set by them, they have their television, they have their mobile phone where they quickly access the information or get the information. But how often do this information that they receive, how often do they verify? How often do they pause to check? How often do they reflect on that information? And how often do they create their own media content in a very understanding and easy way? So we tend to engage them, understand their perspective on how they go about the usage of information in their daily lifestyle. So for instance, if there is during the COVID-19 pandemic, we try to share a lot of information with the market women to let them understand that the information they are receiving on the media sometimes it's not really reflective of the measures that health practitioners or health professionals have put out across in Ghana, for instance, during the pandemic era, like I said, there were a lot of remedies that people came up with, which were not scientifically proven. And so it was difficult for them to better understand these remedies or the approved remedies or the vaccines by the various health institutions across the globe. And so we let them understand, we let the adults age, for instance, the women and people who trade at the market, the informal education sector, we let them understand that media literacy is basically the act of pausing and reflecting or pausing to ask questions about the source of the news, the currency of the news, the timeliness of the news, the context of the news item or the content in which they are producing. So it's really a challenge here engaging them, but we are doing our best to ensure that we integrate them along the way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So infodemic was mentioned. And also in the market, when the adults access information, there's also a question. So I think it was a very good answer. So thank you very much. So anybody else? I think there was a hand from, not from the US, but from Australia and Greece. Is that right? So on the citizenship education or parents education or education on students' life cycle. Anybody else on that question, please? Please raise your hand. I think we're missing one person anyways. Anyone? Raise your hand, please, if so. Oh, yes, there's a little lag. Okay, maybe next to Australia. Amanda, please.
Thank you. So it's not my own research, but I know that there is some research, not specifically with parents, but certainly looking at adult media literacy within Australia. So some colleagues, Professor Michael Dezuani and Associate Professor Tanya Notley in Australia are doing some research specifically on adult media literacy and what kind of education would be useful for adults in that space. So, I come from an education school-based background, I suppose, but there's certainly other research occurring in Australia that's trying to understand the local and contextual needs of adults from all walks of life, across all ages, and across different diverse communities. So I would direct you to that research as part of that, because there's obviously a need for both adults, both as parents, but as adults in their own right, to be able to access quality media literacy education.
Thank you very much for that. Another hand was from Greece. So that was Irene. Did you have something you wanted to add to that? Please do if that is the case.
Thank you. Yes, as I mentioned on my presentation, the new public sector Creative Greece approaches media literacy as an education discipline in typical education in the classroom, but also as a lifelong learning discipline for all. So within this context and through our collaboration with UNESCO, we organize a strong media literacy awareness campaign for all, for pursuing and developing media literacy skills for public good in order to have an active citizenship. So in this sense, we approach parents and civic education in a broader context, but also within schools, especially in primary, preschool and primary education, where we conduct animation competitions, and we use a lot the learn by doing methodology. And this is because we are addressing younger children. This is where we also engage parents. So we give them a homeschool assignment to do with their parents, to watch animation actually, and play with some exercises. So this is where we engage parents in order to be more screen-wise viewers themselves, and then discuss the observation with the kids. So this is a dual approach, and there are also NGOs practicing parent media literacy, but we have it in a more civic education context. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, for sharing. Another hand from US, from Ms. Huang, please.
Yes, I'm currently in an information literacy program. It's through a library information science master's program. And I have noticed, this is kind of the area of my research as well. It's just kind of information communities as teens, but also media literacy as a focus. But public libraries, which we have in the US, are in a good position to be able to offer that. I do think it's lacking to have I'm a parent. So I understand that we also have resources like Common Sense Media is a resource in the US, as well as Pointer Institute. They have a media literacy training for seniors specifically, so maybe even older than parents. But I do think public libraries are a place that, I don't know what that's like in each of your countries, but that we could offer more of those types of services to get information out about information literacy, media literacy, digital literacy. So just public libraries would be my kind of, I think you're going to see more of that.
Thank you very much for that. Yes, there's another hand from Taiwan, please.
Yes, so Mr. Xiao, please.
Okay. So actually, we do to the parent, because we have students in the class and they have homework, and some of the students, their action plan will trying to maybe make some memo to their parents to teach their parents how to get away from the misinformation and how to get away from the scams. We just use students to teach their parents, and also there are some NGO will do that to the adults. So that's the how we do in Taiwan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was going to hear from just one or two people, but I'm so glad to see that everyone is so enthusiastic to add more comments. And by the way, the audiences are sometimes shown on the camera, so please do show your enthusiastic responses as well. Now, there's one question that comes to my mind. This might be a bit more formal, I guess. So when we think about media literacy, there will be challenges and inconveniences that we will inevitably face. So when you're teaching, or maybe from the policy sides, you might have encountered a lot of challenges, because we have to overcome the inconveniences to provide good quality education, right? So when you provide media literacy education, did you run across any challenges or maybe concerns that you're still struggling with? I guess this question is for a more balanced perspective because we've talked about the positive sides only so far. But by the way, just feel free to speak your concerns and struggles and challenges, please.
I'll jump in then. So I think one of the concerns from a formal education perspective in Australia is that although it's fantastic that we have a curriculum and it's scoped and sequenced, a lot of our teachers don't always have the professional learning or the formal education themselves to implement the curriculum in ways that I guess are pedagogically appropriate. And that gives students the best understanding of the key concepts of media literacy education. So there's a lot of work being done to get to have media literacy in the curriculum, but there's still a lot of work to do for teachers to be able to implement the program as effectively as we'd like. And that's certainly not to discourage teachers. Teachers are doing a fantastic job, but they have a lot of curriculum elements to work with. So it's really, I guess, the job of us as researchers and other people as well in government institutions to make sure that teachers have access to high quality media literacy training so that our students receive the best education.
Thank you very much for that. So I think he talked about the expertise of the teachers, which is a very critical point. There's another hand up. Maybe I can give a hand to Irene from Greece.
Yes, to complement what Amanda said, there is also some lack of infrastructure in some schools, but basically the lack of MIL skills among the teachers themselves. So this is what we're trying to do here as a national organization, to offer them as many as we can open educational resources, but also to help them, train them, develop their skills. So we have established the National Media Literacy Network. This is approved by the Ministry of Education, very important for them to have the umbrella of their ministry, and where we do online trainings and physical trainings on all things, all aspects of media literacy. But it is important for us, media literacy is not integrated as an autonomous course in schools. So this is also another challenge because they use it cross-curricularly. So they need to have this interdisciplinary approach among other cognitive elements, how to use it in history, in language, in arts, in IT. So this is also another challenge that it's not integrated autonomously in schools. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for sharing that. I think there's hands from everywhere. So from now to Taiwan, please.
Okay, so actually the current situation in Taiwan is that although media literacy is very important, it's not formally included in the curriculum guidelines. So we can only address it through program, maybe elective course, or maybe school-based initiatives. So, but we will keep working on it to maybe some other school will join us and spreading out, and maybe one day our government will put that into the curriculum guidelines so that all of the school will do that. Yeah, that's the challenge we face right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next from the United States, Ms. Hong, I think you raised your hand 4 times. I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
Well, I'm a teacher in California in the United States, and we just passed legislation to make media literacy a part of, I guess, curriculum, but it's so bureaucratic that it may take a while. It's like the Educational Commission will look at incorporating it into standards. So while I appreciate the effort, I know there's still pushback from teachers who are they don't know how to fit it into curriculum. It's time. There are all these barriers to it. So, I mean, it does kind of take individuals but I think teacher education, it could start with teacher preparation programs, incorporating it so they feel more equipped. But then also just, at district levels. So I recently met with our district superintendent to say, we should be doing some kind of media literacy training for everyone so that it's built into the professional development that teachers are getting. So that is the biggest barrier, I guess, is that it's just hard to squeeze it into a curriculum that already has so many other things. But I will say, what you've done in Taiwan seems like you've just been able to add it to your curriculum. So it doesn't have to be like its own class, which would be amazing, but it can be simply a media literacy lens to any lesson. You could be reading a novel and you can look at it as a media text and you can ask questions about it. So I think it's just creating a media literacy lens for what, even if you're in science or math, kind of look at putting it into a kind of real world media perspective.
Thank you very much for that. The last but not least, of course, is to Mr. Osman from Ghana. I hope I pronounced it right.
Yes, you got it right. And so from my perspective here in Ghana is that when I was with the Ghana Commission for UNESCO, we engaged the Ministry of Education here to see how best we can integrate MIL in the educational curriculum. But since I left, I haven't heard much about it. But I believe there's been some paperwork that is ongoing, and I'm sure very soon we'll have MIL integrated in our educational curriculum. The challenge has always been that since it has not been integrated yet, when you want to embark on an outreach program in any of the schools, you would have to write letter. It has to go through the Ghana Education Service. They have to approve it. There is a lot of bureaucratic issues with assessing the public schools to engage them on MIL. And so it will be best if we have it integrated in our educational curriculum and to ensure that there is a wholesome learning from the preschools to the tertiary education level. Currently, at the tertiary level, I can only speak for the University of Media Arts and Communication, which was formerly the Ghana Institute of Journalism, where there's actually a training course on MIL. It's a fall semester course you have to embark on and ensure that you learn media and information literacy within your first semester at the institute. And so integrating it in the preschool level to the high school level, ensuring that there's a wholesome learning approach to MIL instead of its current arrangement where we have just the tertiary education schools running it. And so that is the side from us from Ghana. We hope and pray that very soon the paperwork will be ready and we'll integrate it in our educational curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we also heard about the challenges and concerns related to media literacy. Now we have 5 minutes left. By the way, Korea is the host organization, so we did not hear about Korea's case with regards to the Q&A. But maybe later on you can refer to related materials about Korea's case as well. Now we have 5 people. We're going to give you 50 seconds each. You don't have to raise your hand because I'm going to go in order. I'm going to call out your name. So please get your closing remarks ready. First, starting with Australia. I'm going to give you 40 to 50 seconds.
Thank you. So I guess just to reiterate that in Australia, media literacy education certainly has a place within the curriculum. We're very fortunate to have that, but that's not to say that it comes without its challenges, as we've discussed earlier, and some of the same challenges that some of the other presenters have talked about as well, including things like integrating it across the curriculum and those kinds of ideas. So yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to listen today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Let's give her a big round of applause. Next one would be to Ghana. Osman, please, last words.
Thank you. My closing remarks would be that we call on all stakeholders to ensure we intensify efforts to reach the less privileged with MIL, because really the grassroots level is now our biggest challenge when it comes to media literacy. For those in the formal sector, they've had a bit of education, but those in the informal sector, we are trying to see how best we can reach them with MIL education. And we call for collaborations and intensification of efforts to reach them and ensure that there is MIL going on in the whole country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please give him a big hand. Next, Greece, Miss Irene.
Yes, I would like to finish concluding with media and information literacy, how it should be engaged with AI, because it is very well fitted in our daily lives. So AI is the future, whether we like it or not, and we need to address the challenges and combine it on a positive way with media literacy as a general precautionary principle. So we need to familiarize educators and students on how to use generative AI in the classroom through media literacy skills, avoid the moral panic, and not feeling intimidated by the intruder, the new element, but rather embrace the challenges and see how we can move further collaboratively. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's been always a pleasure to be joining you. So let's keep in touch.
Thank you very much for that. Let me now move to the United States. Jody, please.
Thank you for having me. And also just, it's so encouraging to hear what everyone is doing around the world. I've been in my US bubble, so I know about all the resources here, but it's pretty amazing to hear what's going on around the world. So I don't know what the future holds for us. I think one of the things is trying to I hope that we create some sort of more cohesive. I know that through the UNESCO, there's something that's there globally, but just that we can work together globally more in our efforts, so that, it's great that everyone's offering these things, but maybe that we continue to have things like this to collaborate and share our resources.
Thank you very much. Now to Taiwan, Wei Shu Xiao, I think you're the last. Let's please ask him to speak for the last time.
Okay. I'm very happy to have this opportunity to share Taiwan's experience with everyone here. Media literacy is an important issue, and I believe in different countries and different schools, we will have different solutions and ideas. It is truly a pleasure to exchange and learn from diverse perspectives, and we will keep working hard. Let's keep in touch. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think you gave me some time to make the last concluding remark. I believe that the media literacy has met an era of challenge today, and what was discussed today, I'm sure, will become a key pillar for the future of media literacy going forward. And I hope that we'll be able to have more platforms like this for us to gather together to share our ideas, and I hope that we'll be able to also have time to talk about media literacy in the era of AI, and also maybe a time for you to come to Korea to join us. Yeah, and last but not least, we have special lecture ready, and you may stay on Zoom if you want to listen to the special lecture, because it will be given by Professor David Buckingham at University College London. Okay, and that concludes this segment, and we'd like to thank all of you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Please give Mr. Kang once again for being a wonderful moderator. And I'm sure that there are some time zone differences. Nevertheless, people from 5 different countries have joined us. We appreciate it very much. And now we are down to our last segment of the day, which is the special lecture, but we are going to have around 10 to 15 minutes break and come back. We have snacks and beverages ready for you. So please go out to the event hall to enjoy them and come back, and do not be late. Thank you very much.